long did you play Magic before you heard about allies and enemies? And were you like me and thought it was about different factions in the story? You might be as surprised as I was then to learn that allies and enemies are actually about color pairings and which ones work the best with each other. When was this concept created? And what all does it mean for deck building strategies? Let's dive into allies and enemies and see what we can learn together. The fastest way to find out what the ally and enemies are is through the Magic color wheel. And little do I know, the color wheel is exactly how the colors are printed on the back of every MTG card. This little circle here, fantastic. And we got a picture with a glizzy to go with it. The ally colors are the ones next to each other. So white is an ally of blue and green, and then an enemy of the two it doesn't share a border with, red and black. Early on, a lot of card design was based around the principles of each color, and the wheel was arranged this way because these colors align the best along their principles. This also led to more multicolored cards being printed in ally colors than in enemy colors, making it more difficult to construct decks in the enemy pairings. The pairings themselves didn't get officially in-universe names until the release of Ravnica's City of Guilds in 2005. Each of the 5 allies and 5 enemies became the names of the guilds of Ravnica. This is some frequent table talk that I did not understand at all when coming back to Magic. I was constantly hearing about decks and being told the guild name, and I had no clue yet what that actually meant, so I had to do a lot of early Googling. Big support for the allies arrived in the Invasion set in 2000, with the set being designed around the multicolored cards as well as its new mechanics of split cards and kicker. The surprise for the block though would be the inclusion of multicolored cards in the enemy colors in the Apocalypse expansion. Multicolored cards is one prominent way of recognizing where cards are intended to go, but something we see frequently now is cycles, but probably more importantly is land cycles. Following up on this block was Onslaught, which brought in the allied fetch lands. Having powerful mana fixing in the allied colors made it even easier to take advantage of the most popular pairings in Magic. The poor enemy colors had to wait until Zendikar released in 2009 before the enemy fetches were printed. And now it feels like every year we're getting a new interpretation of dual lands to represent the allies and enemies. Edge of Eternity's reintroduced shock lands into the MTG standard rotation, bringing in a mix of ally and enemy lands. Then we are due to get the other 5 when Lorwyn Eclipse is released. Last year we received the new Verge lands, with 5 coming from Duskmourn House of Horror and the rest in Aetherdrift. These are a little more challenging that you have to have the basic of one of the 2 colors to activate the second color. These are also split down the ally and enemy pairings, with allies in Duskmourn and enemies in Aetherdrift. There's been a number of these cycles recently as well. We had Surveil lands in Murders at Karlov Manor. This set included all 10 color pairs. The year before, and the next to leave rotation, will be the Restless Creature lands that started in Wilds of Eldraine, with the enemy colors arriving first, and then the allied colors in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, giving more dual-color tap lands that can also turn into temporary creatures. We've had all kinds of these land cycles with the fast and the slow lands in my recent memory as well, but what I think is interesting about them is that some of the most popular decks right now are Izzet, in both standard and modern, but I don't believe those decks are using any of these lands that can enter tapped, and Izzet is an enemy color, taking the spotlight from the allied colors. Now that the cycles happen in a more balanced fashion, we usually get all of the lands within a couple sets, or they are mixed between ally and enemy. Other kinds of card cycles are more consistently printed as well to include both sets of color pairings. One place these pairings matter more is in draft formats. In most sets we're getting 5 to 10 signpost uncommons that enable the premise of each of their color pairings. Drafting one and getting into these colors can empower successful draft decks. Sometimes these can be picked up later in drafts too, as people aren't taking them once they're locked into their own colors. If you want to get a little deeper than the 10 pairs of colors, we can talk about the tricolors that arrive with Shards of Alara. Conveniently named shards of 3 consecutive colors on the wheel, and then the wedges which arrive with Khans of Tarkir and represent an ally pairing and their shared enemy color. The names of these pairs of tricolors are covered plenty, and I don't want to read them all off like a robot today, but knowing them can empower your conversations and help you understand what strategies your comrades are discussing at the table. So I hope this clears up allies and enemies for you in Magic, and sheds some light on how their use led into some of the design choices as sets progressed and how these sets of colors are impacting current metas and the cards we're receiving even in the very soon to be set Lorwyn Eclipsed. Thanks for watching, and take care.